Thank you so much. I bring greetings to you in the name of Yeshua from India, from my family, and from the Light Ministries. And I would like to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your prayers, love, and support that you have been extending over the last 3 years. It's very, very helpful. And thank you so much. Because of your prayers, because of your support, children in India are getting fed. They are getting educated. They have the chance to hear the word of God. Thank you so much for that. Sometimes you may not see it, but it is doing a great impact in the children's and the people's lives that we are working in India. Thank you so much. And I would like to thank Pastor John for giving me this great opportunity, and also all of you for giving me this great opportunity to come and share what God is doing in India. So, God is doing it, somehow I'm just part of it, somehow you are part of it. It's not about me, it's not about us, but it's about Him. He is the one who is doing it. We are just part of it. Sometimes it's easy to think that we are the one who are doing it. With the human tendency, with the human, boastingness, we can think it, but He's the one who is doing it. When we give glory to Him, His name will be exalted. It's not we getting the glory. We have to give glory to the God. And today I would like to tell you a story, a real story that really happened. But before I share, I would like to request you, please do not listen to me. But listen to Yahweh. What He is going to speak to you this afternoon on this special Sabbath day. And in India, in a very small rural village, there was a 11-year-old boy. His parents were daily wage quarry workers, and there are 4 children. And at one day, they were, very, very poor family. But one day, his father got the appendicitis problem. Appendicitis like a 24-hour stomach pain. It's very unbearable. He had been having that pain on and off, but one night it was very, very severe. So his parents, the father's mother, rushed him to the hospital at the middle of the night. They went to the hospital with 80 rupees. It is like 80 cents. Cents or pence? Pence, say, 80 pence. When they went to the hospital, the doctor said he needed the surgery urgently. Otherwise, it is going to be serious for him. And the doctor said it would cost him 1,500 rupees, which is like a 15 pounds, yes, 15 pounds. But the parents did not have the money. But they requested, begged, and pleaded the doctor, please operate him now. Before we leave the hospital, we would pay the money. And doctor was kind enough to do the surgery, and he was out of the danger. They were in the hospital for 3 months, because in those days, they used to cut with the knives, from top to bottom. They used to do the cutting. Nowadays, it's very technology. They just send one wire with the camera in it, and they do it remotely like that. But in those days, it was very, very tough. So it took 3 months for his father to get his wounds healed. So during those 3 months in the hospital, the boy didn't like even single minute of it, because the parents were suffering for the money. How could we pay this, 15 pounds? 1,500 rupees after we finish this, I'm getting healed, how we are going to pay it? So they were always thinking about that 1,500 rupees, 15 pounds. And there was no one came to visit them from their family or the relatives, because they were very poor. If they visited the hospital, they would have to give some money. So it was very, very hard for them. And the boy who was 11 years old, he was looking at all the situation, and he was watching the suffering and the pain and the agony that the parents were going through. It made a great impact on his life. Since that experience, he didn't like the hospitals. He always used to escape the hospital visits whenever he could. Such kind of impact that made on his life. But God has a special plan for his life. When we go through the life things that we think, why God, why it is happening to me? Other people are good, who are non, believers, they are having a better life. Why me? Why we are suffering like this? It's very hard to, think like that. But each and every step of life that we go through, it has a plan. Yahweh has a plan for it. We don't see it now, but once we look back, we connect the dots, everything. Then we know, yes, it's a Yeshua plan. Yes. And the boy really didn't like the hospitals. And he was so much in pain to see all the parents, the parents are suffering. Why we are so poor? Why we couldn't able to pay, just 1,500 rupees, 15 pounds? But as he was growing, he started to develop a very strong angriness towards the God, because he was born into a Christian family. He used to go to the church. He had a lot of sermons, messages about God taking care of the his children, his church, but he didn't see any of those things in his family, or a Christian family. Not only his family and surrounding Christian families, who are the talented people. In India, more than 80% of Christians belong to the outcast people, the untouchable caste people. Last time when I was here, I shared about the caste system. I would like to touch that again. In India, we have this caste system. This has been going on in India for the last 3,000 years. It was a system, it's a man-made myth that brought more destruction than a hope. As per the caste system, it says mankind is divided into 4 different group of people, or 4 different group of caste people. The first group is called the Brahmins. They came from the forehead of the God. They are the priests and the teachers, and they are the 5% of the community, of the entire population. They got all the benefits of the society. And second one is Kshatriya, means kings and the warriors. They came from the shoulders of the God. And the third one is Vaishya, means business community. They came from the belly of that God. And fourth one is Shudra. They came from the feet of that God. So these are the 4 caste people, or group of people who came from the different parts of that God. And they are part of the caste system. But there's one more group of people called the untouchable people, or the Dalit people. They are not from any part of that God, so that's why they are called the outcast people. They are called the untouchable people. And there are more than 120 different kinds of discriminations against the Dalit people. Some they are forced to live outside the village. Still in the 21st century, when you come to India, you see the Dalit people, the untouchable people living outside the village, not in the main village. And in some schools, Dalit children are made to sit back. Recently, in September, there was one child in the school in Rajasthan, state of Rajasthan. He tried to drink water from the pot. There are 2 pots in the school. One pot is for all the rest of the caste children, and one pot is for the Dalit children. So he has to drink from that pot. But he noticed it, and he drank from the other pot. And the teacher beat him to the death, and he died. Just recently, 2 months ago. India celebrated 75 years in independence, but there is no independence, freedom for the Dalit people. And this boy was born into the Dalit caste. Why, our people are suffering like this? In some villages, we are not allowed to enter into the Hindu temples. Still, when that boy was 13 years old, he was stopped not to enter into the Hindu temple because he was a Dalit. Previous president of India was a Dalit. He was elected by the member of parliaments. Because there are 300 million people, there's a big masses of community. They elected him to please the masses of the people. But when the president of India, when he went to visit the temple with his big entourage of, the security and everything, the priest did not allow him to enter into the Hindu temple. President of India. You may be president of India, but you are still a Dalit. You can Google it. So it's very, very hard to live as a Dalit in India. So this boy, started to think, God, why you created this caste system? Why there are so many Dalit people are poor in India? And Jesus, Yeshua, is branded as the poor people God in India. Yeshua is branded as the untouchable people God in India. Because, they are the most majority of the Christians. When they were not allowed to enter into the temples, they found Yeshua who accepted him as they are and allowed them to come into the congregations. So that's why they are the majority of the people. And this boy started to think, why God, why, our people are so many, poor people. Why they are suffering like this? That boy never thought he would become a Christian. He hated Christianity more than anything else. He used to argue with the people about the God. Where is your God when you are starving? Where are those blessings that the Bible talks about? So it was very, very hard for that boy. He became an atheist. He never thought he would become a born-again believer, but God brought him to the knowledge of his salvation in a miraculous way in 2002. Then God gave the vision to start a children's home. And God has been doing wonderful things since then. And God gave a vision for that boy to start a hospital. And God told him, I put you in that position, in the situation, so that you could experience the pain and the suffering and agony of the other people that they're going through. If you don't have that personal experience, you wouldn't have the same passion and the burden for the people. And God gave that boy a hospital to build for the poor people, mostly for the untouchable people in the rural areas. And that boy is standing in front of you and sharing his story. And since then, since we started the Light Home 2006, with one child in my own house, we didn't have any money to buy a land or a house, to rent a house. All we had was 2-room house. We turned our own home into the children's home. We don't like to call it orphanage, it's not a good word in English. I was raised in a government-run hostel. Orphanage, I know how children are being treated there. I used to eat the food which was, which we could see the dead insects in the food. It was very, very hard. There was no way we could eat that food with the soup because we could see the insects running, floating on the top of the food. It was very, very hard. But God has put me in those situations that I could experience everything, personally. And God gave me a great vision, a great passion for my people. If you hear any congregation or a charity or a government, helping the poor people in India, they are mostly helping the untouchable people, the Dalit people. We are 300 million people out of 1.2 billion population, like 1/4 of entire Indian population. And I would like to go through some slides, and I would like to share as I go through. Yes, so that is our Light Home. A Light Home, it's a home for the hope and a better future. Or maybe we can say, is it on? Oops. Do I have to like this or which way? Or maybe just press next, please. Oh, yes. It's okay. Thank you. Now we have 118 children in the children's home, in the Light Home, and we have 340 children in the school. In India, we have 1,600 plus languages that people speak. If you come to 1,600 languages and dialogues, if you come to India, you learn few words in one state, you can't practice that same word in other state. And people look at what the hell are you talking like? What are you talking? It's very hard to understand because we have different languages. Indian modern economy is dependent on the English language. And English medium education is considered to be the privilege of elite. Those who are, those who have the money can afford the English medium education. So we started this English medium school for the Dalit children, for the poor children, and we have 340 children in the school. Everything is done in English. And we have children who have finished, because we've been doing this for the last 16 years. We have children who finished the university degrees. We have one child who is studying MS in the US right now, United States of America. We have children who finished. Yes. Next, please. Yes, this is our uniform. I went to the school without having a uniform. When I went to the school, I always used to have clothes for 3-4 years, the same clothes, and on the backs they had holes, so I have to cover my back to so it's very, very hard. And this type of uniform only very rich schools can have. So we want to give to the children what I have missed in my life. So that's the uniform. And next, please. And this our top one is the home, and bottom one is the school children. It all started with one child in my own house. It's a very small room home. Next, please. And everything we do is God-centered, Yahweh-centered, because we are not there to do the social work. We are not the social workers. We are the Yahweh workers. So everything is connected with the God. So that's our congregation. Like here we have, so every day we have the prayers for the children, except the Saturday. Sunday we have the church. Yeah, next, please. And I would like to tell you about these two children. They joined us 8 years ago, and her mother recently got the paralysis stroke, and it was very, very hard for them to take care of the mother, and we've been helping them. And now the boy is studying accountancy, and the girl is studying nursing, BSc nursing. So that's what they're doing. If there's no light home, their life would be ended a long time ago. So this is one of the few children whose lives being transformed through our ministry. Next, please. And we have desks and benches for children. Normally in the government schools, we used to sit on the floor, morning 9 to evening 5 o'clock. But we have the desks and benches for the children. Yes. And another ministry that we do is feeding the elderly people with 2 meals a day, lunch and dinner we give them. Because in India, what happening is in these days, land prices are going very high, and the children are taking the money, land from the parents by force, and they're kicking the parents out of the homes. And it's very, very bad. And sometimes they don't have the children, and children are poor. Sometimes they cannot afford to take care of children, of the elderly people, so we are feeding the 21 elderly people. Next, please. Next, please. And another ministry that we are doing is training the women in the sewing machine and embroidery training. We give them training for 6 months in the sewing machine, and after training, we give the sewing machine each, so that they have the skills and the machine, they start their own business. So we don't have to take their children into the light home. And another ministry we do is helping the leprosy people. 45 leprosy people we help every month with 25 kgs of rice, because their main income is begging on the street. So we help them with the rice so that they can have meals every day. It's very sad. Yeah. And we also do the gospel crusades to reach out to the people, Hindu people. Next, please. And we also conduct the pastors and leaders conferences. And we also, God gave us the vision to build 100 churches In the remote areas where the congregation is very, very poor, so far we have built one and 99 to go. Next, please. So this is the dream that God has given us. And he clearly told us, hospital is not the healing place. It's very funny. He said, hospital is not the healing place. It's only the treating place. I'm the one who's going to heal them. If you notice, more people walked through the hospital doors than the church doors. The more genuine prayers heard in hospital rooms than in the church room, in the church buildings. That's where people really come to the real thing of their life. So we want to, reach out to the people through this hospital, and it's going to be a 10-bed hospital, general hospital, mostly taking care of the children and the mothers, because maternity is a big problem in India, and India is the world capital of diabetes. So because in India people eat rice always, mostly. In South India, we eat rice mostly. I say a joke, no worries, only rice and curries. No, when you come to India, no worries, mate, only rice and curries. So India is the world capital of the diabetes. So we want to focus on that area also. It's going to be 10-bed hospital. And next, please. Next, please. And this is the land that God has shown us. It's a 600 square meters of the land, very close to the light home. And we have raised the money for the, out of 600, we have raised money for the 355 square meters, and we have to raise funds for the another 245 square meters. Each square meter would cost 29 pounds. Each square meter would cost 29 pounds. And we have friends, some supporting for 1 square meters, some, giving for the more, as God leads them. Next, please. And our dream is to buy the land by end of this month, and we want to start the construction in the January next year, because it takes 1 month to get all the permission and all these things. And we will do that, and we want to start the construction in the next year, and we want to finish that by end of the next year. So I know it is a big dream, I know it is a big thing, but when we started the light home, just by looking at the God, when we started the light home, it was a very, very, a strange, very fearful moment, really. I was 24 years old. I was depending on my parents for my food, but I was going to take the children who would look at me for their food. I was hopeless, literally, but I was going to give hope to the other children. So it was very, very tough, but I felt that's what God was asking me to do it. Just by trusting the Lord, we started it. I have prayed only one prayer. Lord, I'm starting this just by looking at you. You gave me this vision. You called me for this ministry. You are the one who's going to start it. I'm just a tool. So don't let me down. I just prayed that one small prayer. I still remember it after 16 years. And God has done wonderful things. Things that we feel, things we think they're too big, but not big for the Yahweh. We are small, our dreams are big, but our Yahweh is bigger than our dreams. He can make it pass. He can make it pass. And we are praying for it, and we are short of another 7,000 pounds to buy this land. Each square meter is, as I said, 29 pounds. If you are led by the God, if you are, making a difference in the lives of the people, there's a wonderful opportunity. Because wherever the Christians went, Christian missionaries went, they did the right thing. If there's no Christian missionaries in India, I wouldn't be here today. I was educated in a school that was established by the Anglican missionaries from England. Wherever they went with the God's heart. Not just a sympathetic heart, but with an empathetic heart. When they saw the people's life, they were moved with the God's compassionate heart. And they helped the people. And God told us to love one another as He loved us. So we can say, I love you, but we have to show that in actions. Then only we know, God really, loves them, and God is using us as a tool to, bring good news to them. And I'm praying and I'm believing that God is going to make it happen. And one person said, if not now, when? If not me, then who? I ask this question always. If I'm not doing that ministry in India, who is going to do it? If I'm not going to take care of the children, that 118 children and 340 children, educating them, feeding them, taking care of them, if I'm not feeding the 21 elderly people, if you are not feeding the 45 leprosy people who are begging on the streets, I question myself, if not me, who? If not now, when? I ask that question always. I know it's very, very hard. Sometimes, I feel like God is not with me. I feel like, God is, Yahweh is so far away from me. But in those difficult times, I'm learning, Yahweh is teaching me how to trust Him more and more. It is not that He left us when we go through the, stuff, things, the tough suffering, the hard times that we go through. We think, God, you left us. I'm so faithful to you. I'm, very good to you. But you're not kind to me. You left me. Why? I asked that question many times in the 16 years of my ministry. Every time Yahweh has told me, I'm teaching you to trust me more and more. Have you ever wondered about the Abraham faith? When Abraham was called to go to the promised land, you go there, I'm going to bless you there. When the name God was unknown to him, to the people, he trusted Yahweh. And he started just by trusting the Yahweh. He didn't know where the promised land was. He didn't know how to get there. Now we have planes and a GPS and everything. In those days, nothing. So that's the blind faith. That's the faith God is asking us to do. And just by that same faith, we are praying and we believe that God is going to make it happen for this hospital. And in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 25, scriptures, 35 to 40, it says, when I was hungry, you gave me something to eat. When I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. When I was naked, you clothed me. When I was sick, you visited me. When I was homeless, you took me in. And the righteous will say, Lord, Lord, when did we see you hungry and fed you? When did we see you thirsty and gave you something to eat, drink? When did we see you homeless and we invited you in? When did we see you naked and clothed you? And the Lord will say, I tell you the truth. Whatever you do for the least brothers of mine, you're doing it for me. God is so concerned about the least of this world. He's saying, whatever you're doing for these people, you're doing it for me. What a wonderful word. If you do to them, you're doing it for me. If you clothe them, you are clothing me. God Himself is saying, you are clothing me. You're feeding me. You're giving me water. And in these direct children, in these marginalized children, in these marginalized people for the last 3,000 years who are brutally, put down by the society, I see Jesus, I see Yeshua. I want to serve Him. And I want to make a difference in these people's lives in the name of Yeshua. And once again, thank you so much for your prayers, love, and support that is making it possible in India. Without your support, without your active participation, we won't be able to do that. And we sincerely, wholeheartedly thank you so much for that. And once again, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share. And may Yahweh speak to you. Thank you so much.